welcome. So nice to have you be with us today. We're really pleased to have with us Sara Yingling. Who is Sara Yingling? Well, Sara is a yoga teacher, a bonus mom, and a biohacker. She's also the founder of Taming Ant Flow. This is a company designed to help women with endometriosis overcome the debilitating effects of this condition. Sara also is the host of the podcast Taming Ant Flow. Her podcast has helped hundreds of thousands of women safely and naturally address the causes of hormone imbalances. And this is what's been shown to be a primary contributing factor to endometriosis, as well as so many other issues that women struggle with. Well, as if this is not enough, Sara is also a best-selling author, and she's about to release her new book, Ending Endometriosis Naturally. Eliminate pain, increase energy, and get your life back. Sara, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. We appreciate the time you're devoting to this because we know that your experience is going to be beneficial to a lot of people, a lot of ladies that watch this, and a lot of husbands who really have a part in their wife's overall health care. So, with that said, Sara, tell us about your journey and how you ended endometriosis naturally. We're really curious to hear the answer to that.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So I'll give you some kind of bullet points, and I know we'll dive into a couple things specifically. So endometriosis is a condition that for most women takes 7 to 10 years to get diagnosed. So I started with cramps and pain, and I wasn't sure why, and I went to more doctors than I can count to try to figure out what the heck was going on with my body. And then ultimately in my pain journey, I found I became so debilitated, I couldn't get out of bed a couple of days a week. Sorry, not days a week, a couple of days a month. And then that led to things like canceling plans, staying home from work. I had to call home from work pretty often. Anxiety about vacations and spending time with my family. Another thing that's really present with endometriosis is something called endobelly, or it's a bloating, but people in the endometriosis world, we call it endobelly. And it looks like you're pregnant, even though you're not, right? And most women with endometriosis, in fact, 30 to 50% become infertile over their lifetime because of the condition. And that's awful, right? I can't tell you how many times people ask me if I was pregnant, and that's not a nice question to get when you're not pregnant, especially if you want to be.
I could appreciate that. It might feel a little awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this one time we were at swimming lessons with my stepkids, and someone asked me in the hot tub. It was a really awkward conversation from then on. So that's a big problem as well. And the kind of crazy thing happens is you go from like having a flat stomach to looking 6 months pregnant, and it can take minutes depending on what the trigger is. And then the last thing that was really frustrating for me was just the countless numbers of doctors that I went to, and the time, so much time it took, the years it took to figure out what was going on. And so finally, I ended up actually having a laparoscopic endometriosis surgery. It's the only way currently to be diagnosed with endometriosis. They can do ultrasounds and they can look to see if you have a lot of the symptoms, the endometriomas, they call them, around your abdomen or cysts. And I finally ended up having that surgery, and it didn't help me at all. In fact, it made my symptoms worse. And so finally, at that point, I was fed up with doctors, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go figure this out on my own. There's a lot of information out there, aside from Western medicine, like what you get at a regular doctor's office, and I'm just going to start experimenting on myself. So I did, and it took me about 2 years kind of nail down all the different things that for my own body that contributes to me. And I know many people have slightly different triggers, but overall, there's a couple of things that really affect most people with endometriosis. Do you want to dive into a couple of those now?
Well, I know that your book is entitled Ending Endometriosis Naturally. but I believe you had mentioned to me earlier that you had researched some of the traditional allopathic medical treatments. Could you maybe
Mhm.
share a few of those with us? And I think maybe some of them were a little bit unsettling.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was working with my doctors, the two options I had, one was that endometriosis surgery, a laparoscopic surgery, which I ended up doing, and the second one was, if I didn't want to do that, I could go on some sort of hormonal birth control or medically induced menopause.
Mm,
And I'll tell you, I think I was 24, 25 at the time that I was having this conversation with my doctor. Not married, in a serious relationship, and I didn't, end up marrying the person I was with. Um, but that's kind of an unsettling suggestion for someone who's, in the prime of their life, their reproductive life, especially. And there's a lot of problems and side effects that come along with all three of those things, many of them lasting. I still have scars from my surgery.
mm,
And I know, especially from surgery, about 60 or so, the specific numbers on this are a little bit different depending on where you look, but more than half of women who have a laparoscopic surgery will have to have repeat surgeries within 5 or less years of having that surgery for the rest of their lives. So that was pretty unsettling. Not to mention, it's a major medical surgery. I mean, you're under general anesthesia and all the risks and stuff that go along with that. And similarly, with the medically induced menopause, I want to say it was like 6 months of doing this. It's a pill you take, and it essentially stops the estrogen production in your body. And so you get all of the menopause symptoms. So hot flashes, night sweats, changing libido, mood changes, insomnia, all that super fun stuff I'm not supposed to have to deal with until I'm at least 50, right? And that's something, once again, that doesn't actually cure anything. It was, you do this menopause thing for a little while, and then hopefully you find some relief. And then when it gets bad again, you do it again. So it's this like weird every couple of years, probably kind of thing that you'd have to do. And then the last thing was going on regular hormonal birth control, which is essentially the pill, right? That's what most people refer to it as, which I'm pretty convinced is a large reason why I have endometriosis to begin with, because I went on the pill when it was 18, which many young women do. I mean, even especially nowadays, even younger than that, because they're having so many problems with their periods. Your doctors say it regulates your hormones, which I'm sure you have a lot to say about that as well, right? But it's kind of a crazy concept because it doesn't regulate your hormones at all, it suppresses them. And so now you're in this completely unnatural rhythm that your body's trying to figure out what the heck to do with. And for me, being on different types of birth control, I've tried probably 4 or 5 over the course of my early part of my adult life. I had awful times with all of them. Many women with endometriosis have a terrible response to birth control pills, and they don't end up helping. They have all kinds of breakthrough bleeding. Cramps can be worse, even on birth control. And for some people, it actually helps. So I don't want to say that that's never a great option. I don't know. It's a really personal decision, right? And for some people, it can be helpful. My thought was, when my doctor gave me these 3 options, right? Like, how I'm already messed up with my hormones. Why would I do something to mess them up even more? And because I was in the incredible amount of pain I was in, I was willing to let him cut my body open and poke around inside. It's essentially exploratory. So we did that, and then I had to recover from a surgery, and it was, I mean, months of even more pain than I was in beforehand, before I just wrote it all off. Got pissed off enough that I had to do something else. So that's how all those treatments went. Nothing really seemed to work for me.
I understand why those are referred to, those 3 options, as scary, having scary side effects. We could talk for another hour about all these protocols and the things they're doing to our women that we appreciate so much in life. one of the ones, just want to address one of them. Hormonal birth control is a type of synthetic progesterone, a progestin. In a woman's body, the body identical or bioidentical or natural progesterone is considered the master hormone because it carries out a myriad of beneficial functions. In fact, it promotes breast cell tissues to die when they're supposed to in a woman. And when breast cell tissues don't die on time, women have breast cysts, eventually breast tumors. So the body's natural progesterone is a very, very protective hormone, biologically speaking. When you introduce synthetic progestins into the equation, they occupy the progesterone receptor site and they block natural progesterone from plugging in and prevent your body from benefiting from the myriad of good benefits that the body's own progesterone offers. So yes, they do. All synthetic hormones do address symptoms on some level, but they all come at a cost because they all get in the way of the way our body was designed to work with natural estrogen, natural progesterone, and natural testosterone, to mention just three. So just that one kind of pushes my buttons because over the years, I've always appreciated that women are on birth control. And I've always said, all the risk is on you. Figure out something else that doesn't put your body at risk for a bad diagnosis. Yeah. Endometriosis included in that, by the way. So thank you for letting me rant for just a minute because this interview is your interview, Sarah. So thank you for that. So you went through the fire of traditional allopathic medicine and the things the doctors wanted to do to you and some of the things they did carry out. And by the way, just a little qualifier to this, we love doctors. They take the oath to help people, to do no harm. And most doctors really do want to help us to have best of health.
Yes.
Traditional allopathic training, though, typically doesn't address natural treatments. The other thing about typical allopathic medicine is medical doctors are trained to diagnose and treat symptoms for the most part, not always. Whereas when you look for natural treatments, many times you go to what the cause is. Which brings us to what Sara did next on these natural remedies that go to the cause and not the symptom. Sara, tell us what you found there, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to echo, I know especially in my book as well, as I talk about like the trials that I've had with doctors, they really do mean the best. And it's a lack of information and a lack of training. As I was doing so much research for this book, you'll see as you go through the end notes how many different studies and things I looked through. There isn't enough information out there about why it's happening. And so thank you for bringing that up. I think that's really important to bring up.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so the natural remedies. So I have to extend a huge thank you to you for helping me figure out some of these natural remedies and identify them in my life, right? So some of the biggest things that I looked at and I think that are kind of overarching for all women with endometriosis, these gigantic categories, right? So they're the EDCs, I know we talk about this a lot, the endocrine disrupting chemicals, the prolonged stress management, and then a progesterone cream that's bioidentical and like really good and really healthy to help balance the hormones. So each of those categories have a lot underneath them, especially these EDCs. I love to talk about that one first, because I think that was one that for me felt like there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in a lot of these categories.
If you're still with us, Sara, you're frozen on my screen.
Did you lose me? Oh, you're muted.
We somehow got bumped off. I don't think it was the Illuminati, but who knows? So I think where we left off was the sentence about low-hanging fruit.
Oh, sure.
So if you could start that sentence again, please.
So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit when it comes to, what can you actually change and what's some of the simplest things. Probably the most simplest thing is just getting a bioidentical progesterone cream. That really helps to balance the hormones like we just talked about. It's the master hormone. Progesterone helps you decrease estrogen and increase testosterone, which is what most women with endometriosis, that's what's going on with their hormones. But as well as EDCs in your environment and your diet, those were humongous for me. And they were the things that, aside from the progesterone cream, which was like a night and day difference for me, the very next month I felt a huge difference, including my breast tenderness. It was really, really bad. Being just my anxiety levels, being able to sleep better, those things were just really clear, really fast. I could identify them really easily. And when we're talking about natural remedies, some things you can't see, so you can't point to quite as obviously. And some things take a lot of time. So that was pretty huge. So the progesterone cream was easy, and very quickly I realized that it was helping. And then the EDCs in my environment and my diet, those things also, my diet especially, I could point to as well. So I ended up finding some pretty big food triggers. There's a couple categories right underneath that. So there's different things that are healthy for you that just your body doesn't really process really well. For me, I found out that was almonds towards the end of my cycle, which was kind of like, almonds are a health food. Everybody loves almonds. They're in everything, right? That was weird for me. But when I figured it out, it was like such a light bulb moment. And I don't know, that's probably a personal thing. I don't know if that affects other people. But I do know that things like meat that's come from CAFOs, right? I can't remember what that acronym stands for, right? But where all the cows are together.
It's where they put 10,000 cows on 2 acres, and you can smell the cow farm 5 miles away. Yeah. And that's if you're upwind.
Well, and I'm a Midwest girl. I grew up in Wisconsin. Like, there you go. Like, there's so many farms all the way around me.
So let me just ask this question before you finish that.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that because there are so many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of EDCs, that your book is going to give us some really excellent details on how we can identify those, because in addition to a good quality progesterone cream, obviously that's super important, but shutting off the fuel supply, now isn't your book going to give us a lot of detail on just where we can figure out these triggers? And I understand not everybody triggers on the same food, maybe almonds for you and walnuts for somebody else.
Yeah.
But I think that what the ladies that are listening to this are going to be highly benefited from is when they have a copy of your book, they're going to really be able to dig into all these specifics from all the research that you did.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so what I did in the book was I essentially held your hand through different pieces of your life and how to address food, how to address your home environment, where to look for those EDCs, scented soaps and shampoos and things like that.
I really like that, Sara.
Yeah. And because so many people don't know what it is. It's not a thing you learn about from your doctor.
That's true.
But it's hugely impactful.
And that includes Dr. Google's not quick to tell you about EDCs also. You really have to do some digging. And that's one of the things I appreciate about you. You're not just a podcast queen, but you're an excellent researcher.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what would you say for our viewers today, Sara? Where are you today compared to where you were at the beginning of this endo journey, if I can coin a new phrase here?
Yes, I'm so happy and excited to be an image that people can see that I'm pain-free and I'm belly bloat-free.
Wow.
I mean, there's a whole lot of other things, right? But those are two of the biggest things. Now I have a team of doctors who know me, who understand the things that are important to me in my body. And when I'm having troubles, I know who to go to. I've identified who those people are.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, in my 26 years of having the privilege of working with ladies, every few years, the questions that come in changes. And in the last 5 or 6 years, the general theme that I'm hearing from women calling in and asking questions is, I did my research, but I'm more confused today than when I started, which is what I love about your book, because you're going to circumvent Dr. Google and help women go to the core of what they need to know. Please.
Yeah, so women are finding that they're more confused after they've done some research and talked to their doctors than they were beforehand. And now they have no idea what's the right thing to do. There's so many, it's like having option fatigue, right? And you just don't know where to go, but also so many of those options take a lot of time and energy and money. And so what's the best use of those limited resources in your life? And I was able to figure them all out for myself. And in the book, what I give you guys is my, like, here's your most important things to tackle. And then here's 100 other like possible things that may or may not make a difference for you. But if you can hit those key top things, those EDCs, that progesterone cream, and your prolonged stress management, we haven't chatted a whole lot about that. That's also huge. If you can identify those 3 things and find the ones for you that make the most difference, then that's where you're going to find the relief. And that's exactly what I did. And it took me years and a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of energy and motivation to figure those things out. And so I'm just like, I'm so excited to have a resource for people who are in my shoes, who can look to something and go, this woman figured it out for herself, and of course, maybe the things that worked for me won't be exactly the things that worked for you, but those main categories, I mean, I'm not really a betting woman, but I would put lots of money. Those are the things.
Well, Sarah, I completely 100% agree with what you're saying, that everybody is different. But with that said, genetically, we're 99.9% the same. So there are a lot of things that are fixed constants. And you are correct. Those 3 categories that you talked about, the EDCs, the stress, and the progesterone cream, those are fixed constants in all women. It's just like everybody needs to drink some water every day. That's a fixed constant. Everybody needs to breathe, fixed constant. Everybody needs sleep. Everybody needs to eat food to keep going. So I appreciate that you've distilled it down to those 3 primary categories. For our viewers, Sarah, what advice could you share with women who are struggling with a hormone imbalance?
Oh man. So I know that it's easy to think that you've tried everything and nothing worked and the world's out to get you and through it. Like there's just nothing else you can do. I really understand being in that place, and it's a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can tell you is changing your body naturally takes time and it takes patience. And I know that those are in very short supply. And it's out there. Solutions are out there. It's hard. It can be hard to find them, but when you do and you start to see those first couple successes, especially that first one, it's so motivating and it can give you that energy that you need to keep going. Just hang in there.
That's excellent. Well, Sarah, we appreciate the fact that you have distilled down what a lot of women are searching for. And depending on when you're viewing this particular video with Sarah, her book is going to be released on Monday, June the 7th on Amazon. Now, if you're viewing this after June 7th, you can still find her book on Amazon. It's going to be a bestseller. It's entitled Ending Endometriosis Naturally. Sarah's website, by the way, is tamingantflow.com, which is also the title of her podcast. And then another resource that doesn't have any product on it, but it's bio-progesterone.com. There's a lot of research that's been put into that site. Matter of fact, that front page at bio-progesterone.com has links to over 100 published peer-reviewed studies on the hormone progesterone. It's probably the single most researched page on the entire internet on progesterone. But between bioprogesterone and Taming Ant Flow, you'll find some excellent resources. But no matter if you go to the websites or not, don't miss getting a copy of Sarah's book. You can download it on your Kindle or your iPad or whatever other device you have. And then the paper copy, Sarah, will be available when?
It'll be available in July.
July?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you all for watching. And Sarah, thank you so much. What a delight to have you on with us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Look forward to our next time together.
Me too. Thank you.
I'm trying